From project reviews to incredible interviews, along with the general things in Web3, CraigO's Crypto Corner covers the space in a fun and engaging way. We dive in so our listeners can conceptualize, plan, strategize, and implement their very next move. We are quickly becoming a platform that enriches and supports the overall foundation of Web3. In order to grow, you need your voice to be heard. If you have infinite curiosity, then CraigO's Crypto Corner is just for you. Come join us.
You're tuning into CraigO's Crypto Corner, the best in Web3, blockchain, NFT, and cryptocurrency technology. Great reviews, incredible interviews with the leading people in the Web3 ethos, and just the general things Web3. Today's going to be a really fun and engaging episode. I want to welcome everybody in on Twitter Spaces, Facebook, YouTube Live, and today, for the very first time, we're hopping in on LinkedIn Spaces, sort of Twitter's version of Twitter Spaces. So really excited for that. I want to get into it first with Ralph Quintero from The Daily. Ralph, if you can cue up that screen share and bring Ralph up. What's up, Ralph?
What is up, Craig? Missed you in Miami this weekend, man.
I know. I will hopefully be there next year. That is my hope as we're in the building phases here. And I manned the fort really well, did a lot of promotional stuff from the content we created with Anna, Eric, and
Gianni,
thank you. La Paglia. I got that. Thank you. So, every week you come in with the daily, weekly Ralpha update, and I'm always infinitely curious. And I think there's probably two primary things that we're going to cover today. And I'm going to butcher the first one, Nagamoko. I don't care. I said it wrong. Don't care. No love. Fought all the way. I know you're excited. Oh, it's pegged to be the next CryptoPunk. I'd sure love to know why you have two of these wonderful tokens in your wallet. I say that incredibly sarcastically. And then let's talk about Miami NFT Week. I want to understand from you what was so great about it, because there were a lot of speakers. There were over 4,100 people in attendance. So where should we start, Ralph?
Let's start with Miami NFT Week, because it was an incredible event. So last year was the inaugural event for that conference, and it was spectacular. I came away from that super pumped, super energized. Obviously, the market conditions were very different last year as we headed into the conference, right? ETH was at over 4,000. Everything was pumping. Everybody's bags were pumping. Life was good, right? Heading into this conference, we've got the pendulum swinging completely the other way, where ETH was struggling to stay above 1,800 for the weekend. There's been a lot of FUD, a lot of stuff going on just with crypto regulation, banking collapses, all different kinds of things. So, you're never quite sure what you're going to expect coming into it. But like you mentioned, over 4,000 attendees, the quality of the people in the room were phenomenal. The panels were top notch. I learned a lot. It was very interesting to just look around the room and see how many people were taking notes. That's always a measure that I like to use. It just wasn't superficial stuff that people were noting to memory. They were actually taking notes. There were a lot of people recording the sessions on their phones and making bookmarks to specific parts of the topics. And those topics range everywhere from metaverse activations to NFTs to crypto to VC funding, all different kinds of things. And on the first day, during one of the panels that I moderated, I actually asked the room how many people in the room were building, and nearly 80% of the room, I would say, raised their hand, saying that they were either actively building some kind of project in Web3, blockchain, metaverse, or NFT, which made me very, very bullish. The other thing that made me bullish was the fact that there was very little, gloom and doom. Right. Similar to, we've had a discussion about when I landed at NFT NYC last year, and I as soon as I turned on my phone, ETH had dropped below $1,000. And I was like, man, this is going to be a bloodbath as we come into this. But it wasn't. There was a lot of optimism, and I felt the same way about Miami NFT Week. And it was a great way of kicking off Miami Tech Month as well.
I love that. And the fact that there was a lack of FUD is a good thing, because we saw a lot of that last year as there was so much parabolic movement in the market. People were grabbing money. People were playing day traders with JPEGs and cryptocurrencies and this one and that one, big winners, big losers. The other thing that I like to hear is that people are building. This is the time where credibility is being created, where I call core communities. When I think of that, I also want to understand a little bit more maybe about doodles, because your doodle was all over the place. You had people reporting, on everything that was going on there. The man on the street upbeat. I saw a couple of those quick segments, feeling that level of excitement. But I think also another thing that I'm seeing, and we'll talk a little bit today in celebration of On-Chain Monkey and their partnership, and Steve Miller, of course, as we call him, the ENS god. He is in the house.eth. I don't know if he owns that ENS domain, and if he doesn't, that's fine. But he's an ENS god to me and you with the Shark Tank. But, you know, the other thing to me is when you see communities building and you see people attending conferences like this, and it's a core group of people, it means that they are preparing for what blockchain adoption is going to be in the coming years, what it's going to mean to everyday businesses. You know, in the way when we think about utility, what's the connection to actual products and services? And so I was really excited. How can people grab a hold of that content? Can they go to the website? Is there any video content among the speakers that they can purchase? Is that available for free on YouTube?
That will be made available for free. I know that the team is finalizing that as we speak. So as soon as it does become available, I'll probably report on it in the Daily Raffle, and I'll make sure that you know about it so that we can let everybody who follows and supports CraigO's Crypto Corner has access to those as well.
Beautiful. And I love your career section and here for the art. This is two of the things right now personally I'm focused on, as I want to see myself developing even further into Web3 alongside of this incredible platform that we have, and we grow each week with you. And before we do that, Tony, real quick screen share. Guys, as I've said it before, this is absolutely free. You see that subscribe button, that yellow button? Just enter your email in there. It's free. 80,000 subscribers, the best Web3 news we can get. You can come off of that screen share. Now, last thing that I want to talk with you about specifically today. Nagamoki.
Can you say the name of the project again,
I will not. I absolutely adamantly refuse. Why are you so excited about this? And you can pronounce it correctly if you so choose.
So we're talking about Nakamigos here, right? So this project, I actually called early on in the Daily Ref, and I called on this show, and there was a lot of fun. Actually, this morning I mentioned the fact that there's Fanamotos and there's Funamigos. You know, there's, if you look at Twitter right now, half of Twitter is super excited about the project, saying that it could potentially be the next CryptoPunks. And then you have the other half saying that, you know, a month from now, we're not even going to be talking about this project. We're going to forget that it even existed. And I said that I sit on the side of the fact that we're going to be talking about this project for a while. I think this is one of those for the culture plays. We saw people get into the action earlier this week, saying that if the project hit a 1/8 floor, he would collaborate and do the art for the second edition, which is huge, right? Like, People is one of the biggest artists in the space, having sold one of his pieces for $69 million at auction. So, you know, I think this has more sticking power than some of the other projects that we've seen, especially if more and more influencers continue to you know, be around the project. Although you know me, I'm not a huge fan of like influencer pumped projects, but right. I think that this has a little bit more sticking power. The community that's building around it has been actually pretty solid. And there's all these sub communities that have been built around it. I'm seeing people start collecting. Like, one of the things that it reminds me of the early days is people collect certain traits. So I've seen people collect all pink hair. I've seen people collect all capes or all crowns. And that's very reminiscent of the early days in the space where, you know, like if you remember Bulls on the Block or one of those projects where everybody was like, oh, I'm going to get all the purple bulls, or I'm going to get all the ones that are wearing gold chains. And, you know, same thing with a lot of the Yuga projects. So I see a lot of parallels between those projects and this project. So you know, as a holder, I hope that we'll be talking about this more than a month from now. I'm not planning on selling the two that I have.
What did you mint them for?
So interestingly enough, early on, I was not an early believer. I'm going to call myself out on this. I was on the allow list and I did not take advantage of it. I had one in an allow list spot. Okay. Didn't take advantage of it. And then I got in at like 0.12, I believe, or 0.11 on both of those. Still not a bad return, right? Like sitting at 4x right now. Right. It was 10x plus when it got up as high as it did, and we'll see. But I like the ones that I got. They look like me. So planning on hanging out and enjoying them.
All right. So I'll just say this. I wish you luck in that community. I wish everybody who's in the fandom part makes as much money as they can. But Stephen Miller and I, we know where the sauce is, don't we, Steve?
Yep.
We do. I see that head nodding in the background, and we're going to cover.
Hey, I got mine here too. I totally believe in the OCM ecosystem, baby. There he is.
It's cool. I love it. And by the way, what I love more than you is your daily Ralph newsletter. It provides tremendous value, and I'm truly grateful each week to have you on the podcast when we can. And last week, Miami NFT, and I just said I'm going to stick to making sure that our listeners on Twitter Spaces, Facebook, YouTube, now LinkedIn, go subscribe to the Daily Ralpha. dailyralpha.com. It's super easy. Put that subscribe button. So I want to head into it today. I'm going to be taking the co-host seat, Ralph, and I'm going to let the host today, Mr. Meta Matt, lead the way. We've created a bunch of great content. We've got Mr. Stephen Miller, ENS God, the ensgod.eth. I don't know if he has a domain. I don't care. He is a god in the space when it comes to the Shark Tank, and it is attended by many people. He is an incredibly credible speculator in the space. We're going to be talking about Web 2 to Web 3, the emerging infrastructure of the internet. Donald Trump. Yeah, see how I just dropped my bass on the voice on that one? International relations, the marketplace war, Elon Musk and the Doge symbol, and a couple other things sprinkled in there. Mr. Meta Matt, can I have you come up as my host?
Hey, how we doing, Craig? How's it going, Ralph?
I'm going to take a back seat. You've got the notes on your screen. I'm going to be running through CHAT GPT. Grab me as you need. We've got our screen shares ready to go. Anybody who's in Twitter Spaces, my last words to you. If you want to come up and speak at different times, Renee in the studio will let me know. But Meta Matt, the floor is yours, my friend. Web 2 to Web 3. Meta Matt, my host for the day. Go for it.
Well, if we do, is Ralph still here? Because I want to start off, since if he is here, I want to start with the marketplace. Yeah, there we go. I know you are very, very knowledgeable when it comes to NFTs, Web3, just everything in general when it comes to that aspect. This marketplace wars that everyone's talking about. I know this Blur, now OpenSea has their pro version. Have you personally been able to try? I know you tried Blur. Have you tried the new OpenSea as well? And what do you think about the comparison? So
I did. I played around with it yesterday. I think it's still a little bit buggy. It was slow for me, but I also think that was because of the sheer amount of people coming in to check it out at the same time. I haven't tried it today yet. I plan on doing a little trading on it this afternoon. Look, I think it's a good thing for the space to have choice and to have the ability to jump around different marketplaces. I saw a stat yesterday that actually surprised me. There's more than 170 active marketplaces. And I double checked that stat and it's actually accurate. What I'm working on now is getting a list of all 170 of those marketplaces to see what the real volume across all those are. I think my biggest concern up until this point had been with Blur. And actually that was a talk that a lot of people were having over the weekend at Miami NFT Week with, all this Blur farming really throwing off the true volume numbers in the NFT space. And by some estimates, some people are saying that the volume numbers could be off by as much as 70% due to Blur farming. And that's never good for the space, right? So like, imagine that tomorrow morning, I was able to develop a filter where I could get rid of all the farming going on Blur. And we saw volumes drop from whatever it was today, $50 million across the major marketplaces to all of a sudden maybe just seeing $8 million in volume, right? Like that would be a crazy thing to face. Now, with OpenSea coming in, I think that a lot of people who weren't particularly fond of the Blur, UI UX, which is pretty old school, I think they're going to be happy with OpenSea. I surely was. And ultimately OpenSea has a huge user base. So, if they can properly educate their user base and get them to as they evolve in their journey as traders or buyers of NFTs and start using some more of these pro tools, I think it could be really interesting. The other thing that I thought was interesting is that they launched this Gem Assist token, which was available to anybody who had used the Gem marketplace before. Now, if you're not familiar, Gem is a marketplace, the aggregator that OpenSea bought last year, and they've essentially layered on OpenSea Pro on top of it. So this token was available as a free mint to any wallet that had used Gem before. And we saw the floor price of the token come up to like 0.08 at one point yesterday. I think it's back down to 0.04 But there's some implied utility, some implied rarities based on their announcement. So, similar to what people are doing with blur farming, I don't know where that token goes, or if there's other tokens, or if there's going to be some kind of an airdrop for people who have used OpenSea. A lot of that is yet to be seen, but definitely interesting.
And for those listening, just as Craig did say, we are starting off with Web3, but we are going to be getting into some more Web2 topics like Donald Trump and some of the stuff that we don't typically talk about on these types of platforms. But before I get into that, I want to continue about this marketplace war. And I just want to ask either of you, actually, what you guys think about Blur making the volumes increase. I know NFTs are at all-time lows. Is this a good thing that people on the outside are seeing all this big volume, even if it might be fake, and saying, oh, maybe NFTs are back? It might, do you think it might be good for social sentiment, or do you think it's actually, in the long run, a bad thing to have all these possible fake stats out there?
Let me just shoot for it really quick, because I know Ralph's going to have maybe a little more in-depth insight. So first off, I just looked at what are the most popular Web3 marketplaces in CHAT GPT in real time. OpenSea, the first, Rarible, number 2, Super Rare, number 3, Nifty Gateway, number 4, which we'll talk a little bit about today with Starbucks. I've been running my journeys. My thought on it, Blur, I don't like the idea of wash trading. I remember saying early on to Ralph, I don't like the look and feel of it. I also like the verbiage of OpenSea. I think there's going to be a really great market disruptor, which later on in the podcast we'll talk about. I'm kind of like to stick to the things that are simple, that I understand, that I don't have to take more time away from the time to prep for this podcast. So I'm the fan of OpenSea as it stands right now, even with all the stuff that has happened in their past, which could have been probably easily prevented, such as the issue with Nate Chastain. So go for it, Ralph.
No, I would agree with you. I think that it's good for the space. I'm a big fan of OpenSea. Have they had missteps? Yes. Did we spend like 6 months fudding them and saying that, after raising so much money and making so much money, they only had like 6 employees that worked part-time? Yeah, we all did. But at the end of the day, they've kind of been the foundation upon which NFT trading has been built on. And I think that they have a huge first mover advantage. They're always going to be a target. And, I think how they've responded to this whole Blur thing, while maybe not as quickly as a lot of people would have liked, I think it's been a good response. And I'm looking forward to seeing how it evolves. And like I said, I plan on actively trading some more this afternoon, and I'm happy to report back, Matt, in a future episode, what my experience has been so far.
I know OpenSea, the big news at one point, maybe like 5-6 months ago, was they're now integrating Solana. I remember when Polygon got integrated. There's a lot of different blockchains, just aspects being traded on OpenSea. One of which, of course, is the ENS domains. I personally didn't know anything about it until I was introduced to Craig, and through him, Steve Miller, Flexer.eth. We actually do have Steve Miller on here. One of, like we were just saying, the ENS domain god. I would love to bring him on and get his take on, on OpenSea. And just, I know you also trade NFTs as well as the, as the domain. So I just want to see what your take on this Blur versus OpenSea versus maybe X Factor. How are we doing, Steve?
Yeah, man. Good to see you. GM to everybody. Good to see y'all.
GM.
Look, man, I've got a couple different takes on this one, but first and foremost, let me just say, I am just a humble ENS community servant. I am nothing more. I am nothing less. But I love the fact that we're joking about the ENS God, because I actually happen to know ENSGod.eth. He's a good dude in the community. But on the marketplace war discussion, I think it's really, really interesting, because you've got so many really interesting breakout factors here, because there's one that you haven't even mentioned, Magic Eden. Magic Eden is currently still the #1 for all of Sol NFTs, and they're making strides forward in all of the other ecosystems. So yes, they are making strides forward in ETH, but they're also one of the big leaders in terms of Bitcoin ordinals right now. So I think that each of them is starting to carve out a niche. But the thing that I get really bullish on when it comes to the introduction of OpenSea Pro or post-gem.xyz is the way they went about actually adding value back. Because we had this big thing where Blur was pulling in a ton of user volume strictly on the basis of this airdrop and farming. We didn't know jack shit was coming for Gem. And as Ralph had mentioned, the Genesis NFT, it's here, it's now. And if you had actually minted on Gem, you have the opportunity to go mint one for free. And the volume of it's like 180,000. You sit there and you ask, well, like, how's there gonna be any value to that? Well, there's 70,000 of them minted so far. It's in the art category for some reason. and they're currently selling for about $75. I don't know about you at home, but I got about $17 for my Blur airdrop. I'm a little bit more bullish on OpenSea Pro personally. So that's just kind of how it goes. I think equitable, benefit is kind of a big deal. So the way that Gem went about that, I'm pretty bullish on that.
That's a great point, Stephen, about the fact that they're making big strides on the ordinals NFTs. I was waiting for somebody to do that, and it's really nice to see Magic Eden take that leap. I mean, they've been taking a lot of hits lately with DeGods and Utes moving off of the Solana marketplaces. Soul just taking a hit. So to see them, pivot and be aggressive in looking at some of these other ecosystems, I think it's bullish for the platform. So I appreciate you bringing them up.
I know you also brought up the Blur farming and, how there's a lot of rewards based off of that. I know that, just in crypto in general, there's a lot of rewards being offered all over the place. Staking is a big one. The SEC, recently banned staking in the US for Kraken, Coinbase. They were knocking on Coinbase's door next. I'm wondering what your take on, since y'all are all three of are actually very, very, very invested in the Web3 space. Do you think that all Web3 platforms kind of need something like Blur did, like a reward system or like a staking system, or can they just rely on a good product like Web2, products or Web2 companies typically do? Do you think that everyone needs to be offered something for free? And is that even sustainable?
Let me shoot at it first, right? Because I'm dealing with two beasts in the space right on the lower part of my screen. I would like to say that there has to be an incentive in anything you're getting involved in. Any community, the idea around utility is that you're creating unique membership, that your unique wallet holders, that number is up, that you are creating IRL events potentially. Again, for some communities, that's not as important for people who might not travel, but that you're creating the opportunity that the longer that you hold, you have access to certain things. So for instance, with On-Chain Monkey, and I know we'll dive into that in a little bit, when I think about the other day, I had called Steve and said, Steve, what is our community doing, our On-Chain Monkey community doing? And strong community. And like within, 12 hours, Steve's like, did you see that news? And I'm like, I did. And very exciting news about their partnership with Bugatti. So I think it's about partnerships. I think it's about the value to the holder. I think it's about the intelligence of the community. And when you see people learning together, of course, people are going to take their profits, and you're going to find that things will pop up on news, and then they'll readjust, and maybe they'll stick to a new price point. Maybe like our housing market. I don't know. Those are my thoughts.
I love how you approach that, Craig. I would add that Web3 is about co-creation, right? And you want to be able to reward the people who are co-creating with you along the journey of your Web3 projects. So, whether you're rewarding them with tokens or experiences, token gated access to certain things or events, I think it's important. I think it's one of, the things that's built into the ethos of Web3. And I want to see it continue. Like, we're coming up to NFT NYC next week, and I have been getting access to all of these events because I'm a holder of these projects. So having that opportunity is a big thing. Is it sustainable to give people airdrops and expect them, to like moon and keep going? I don't know. I mean, Stephen, you were around during the initial ENS airdrop, as I was, and it was awesome. And we made a lot of money from that airdrop. If we sold some of it back then, I sold a big portion of my ENS tokens back then. I did keep some for the voting power within the ENS DAO. But, are we going to see more of that? I don't know. It's going to be interesting to watch.
Definitely. My last question on this topic. I remember back in the .com era, everyone always relates .com to Web3. We had Chewy, now there's pets.com. We had MySpace, now there's Facebook. We had Ask Jeeves, remember that one? Now there's Google. Do you think that, I know OpenSea is very, very powerful, but I know Craig was talking about some other ones as well. There are other marketplaces out there. Do you ever see anyone topping OpenSea and being the next, big marketplace in the future, whether it's 5-10 years from now? Do you see OpenSea just sticking with it, or will they just be another MySpace, Chewy, or Ask Jeeves?
If I could just shoot real quick, Tony, quick screen share. I just want to show the gentleman this. So I spoke with the founders the other day of Creatorhood, and what they want to do is protect the royalty for the creators. And built into the smart contract, if someone doesn't pay a royalty, certain utilities will be taken away. I like the novel approach that they're doing. I like the team. They took me through their whole slide deck, and that was just kind of one of those one of those people, one of those groups, one of those teams that I'm really rooting for. So that's my thoughts on it.
Steven, you wanna chime in? Because I've definitely got some thoughts on this.
I mean, I'm only sitting here licking my chops at this question. That's the problem. I look, there's a silent player. Let's call them that. They're not gonna be silent for much longer. And we thought a while back that Coinbase NFT was going to be that factor, right? They were going to come in, they were going to be the namesake. I think that you're going to see like big niche players, like Artblocks just came out, dropped their own marketplace like within the last 2 weeks. It's phenomenal, right? It really focuses on returning the creator royalties back to the artists. I'm so for that. But I think that everybody else is going to face a major competitor in the next 2 to 3 months in what is effectively going to be Amazon's NFT platform. It's really, really hard to escape call it the octopus arms of a massive Web2 player like an Amazon. So I'm really, really convinced at this point that that's going to be the next one to watch. And if you're looking at like a Chewy coming in or a big time name brand to take over some of that real estate, I think it's really hard to say that Amazon's not going to have a big play in that.
Yeah, I would agree wholeheartedly with you, Stephen. I was chomping at the bit to have a little discussion about Amazon because I think that they're definitely going to change the game. I think how they're looking at bridging the physical and the digital aspect of this space that we're in right now is really interesting. That every digital collectible is going to be tied to some physical component, whether it's a physical item or an experience. Those are the two paths that I've heard rumors about so far. It makes it very interesting. During the conference, I had the opportunity to talk to Anthony Diorio, who's one of the co-founders of Ethereum with Vitalik. And he was talking about how he's very bullish on the phygital experience. And like, as they were thinking through Ethereum, essentially, and inventing what today is NFTs, a lot of the use cases that they were thinking was that bridge between physical and digital. And I felt that he was almost disappointed to see, people just going purely digital, and he wants to bring it back to having that bridge. And I think that's where Amazon's heading. And then to the point about Chewy and OpenSea and everything that we're talking about, I think what happens is Amazon is Amazon. OpenSea becomes the eBay, of Web3, and then we're going to have. I'm actually very bullish. You brought up the fact that Artblocks dropped their marketplace. I think we're going to see more and more projects drop marketplaces themselves directly. I'm also pretty bullish on like verticalized marketplaces. Like, you're going to see marketplaces that are for music collectors or just hip hop collectors, or you may see one for basketball NFTs or poems, where they're very specialized marketplaces, no different than some of the e-commerce stores that you go and visit right now, for very niche and specialized information about a product that you're trying to buy.
I remember during the bull run, whenever these big corporations like Amazon would get involved, or just any kind of big corporation, Gucci, Coachella, everyone was saying that this is the big bull run. The NFTs are going to 1,000 ETH or whatever. Like now it seems like it's kind of the opposite as far as the narrative goes. With Meta is getting out of the AR VR metaverse plays and really focusing on their AI. I know they still have some money funding, obviously, the metaverse, because they put a lot of money into that. But even Disney cut their metaverse and VR ties as well. They're doing a lot of budget cuts as far as that goes. I'm curious. I know Apple is doing the opposite. They're releasing in June, I believe it's $3,000, these AR VR headsets, their first ever ones. What do you think about big corporations coming into Web3? Is this good or bad for Web3? I know Web3 is all about the little guy, all about the degen. These people who are in their who normally wouldn't get the opportunity to create a business are able to do these businesses now. Do you think that Amazon coming in is just taking over all? Everyone has great ideas, but I know I've worked in startups. I work in a startup. I worked in mom and pop places. I've worked in corporations, and I know firsthand the corporations are always going to have the advantage because they have the money. They have the time, they have the money, and they have the resources. Do you think this is good or bad for the NFT degens? I know it will help with mainstream media, help with the mainstream adoption, but I don't know if it'll necessarily help for all those founders out there who are sitting in their grandparents' basements and thinking that they're going to be the next big entrepreneur. Well, I wonder what your take is.
I think it's a bullish sign. I think that in order for us to see the true potential of this technology that we're building, that we're seeing built right now, we need that kind of adoption, because it's not all going to come off the backs of just small startups. You need, to your point, Matt, you need some of that institutional money to come in and support some of these bigger initiatives and bigger ideas. We're seeing it right now with CHAT GPT and everything that OpenAI is building. If they didn't have the kind of funding that they had, would it be advancing at the breakneck speed that it is? Maybe not. So I think having players like Amazon in the space is good for the space. Yes, will it squeeze out some other players? Possibly. You can never underestimate the ability for smaller players to pivot very quickly and move where bigger corporations requires steering of a ship very, very slowly. So we'll see, but I think it's a good thing for the space.
I was just going to say, you've got the Web3 highway and you've got the Web2 city, and the connector between the Web3 highway and the Web2 city are big brands. And so one of the things that I hope you'll help me to unpack, Meta, when you come back to me at some point is sort of my Starbucks Odyssey program that I've been very much involved with, connected onto Nifty Gateway on the Polygon blockchain. I've been able to get a lot of insight and understanding as to how the customer loyalty program works. So for me, I want to throw a question really quick at Steve. I know I'm the co-host today, but Steve, you mentioned Amazon. Any alpha, how we can get ahead of the curve? Because if you say to me, when we look at Starbucks, and I won't dive too far, how many millions of people it serves every week, 22 million transactions a week, to be specific. I get excited when they have stamps that are i.e. NFTs. Anything in the way of Amazon on that we can get ahead of?
I think it's interesting, and I want to make sure that I throw it over to Ralph for this one, because there's a lot that he had already said about the phygital element, and I think that that's going to probably be the corner of our market that they try to carve out most. Right, they've already announced that they're going to be featuring some of the most prominent NFT collections that are out there right now already. They've already mentioned that Pudgy Penguins is going to be a part of it. They've mentioned, a handful of others. I'm not going to go into it much deeper, but I think the phygital section of our market is going to be huge over on Amazon. But I'm not sure if there's much direct alpha to glean in terms of how you can get ahead of what benefits might be coming for Amazon Prime holders or anything like that down the line. What I can tell you is this: regardless of what marketplace you're going to, and yes, this is going to be a semi-shameless plug, you're going to need a passport to get there. Yeah. You're still going to need to actually interface with wallets, and using something like MetaMask is going to be interoperable. You need interoperability, and what's the easiest way to use a wallet in the entire space right now and to not mess up? Have an ENS name. Secure an ENS name and actually attach it to your wallet, because straight away there have been more transactions that have been errored out or failed or sent to the wrong place just because you're trying to rely on a 42 character string for a wallet. It's mindless. So to have something simple like a ralphq.eth or stephenmiller.eth, or even if there is going to be a metamat.eth one day, all of these things, they can be extremely helpful regardless of what marketplace you're on. But Ralph, I'm curious, do you have any other separate take on the Amazon side of things before I rib you with an alpha question in a second?
Well, it's not particularly directed at Amazon, but I'll share just an interesting experience that I had this weekend. So on Saturday, I wore my 9DCC t-shirt that I had minted during our Basel. And that's definitely a phygital, right? It's got a built-in NFC chip that you could essentially scan, people can scan and they can earn your POAP or claim a POAP that you've customized. I had never worn the shirt since the day I had minted it, but I was at a massive NFT conference. I thought it would be super cool. Didn't think much of it until I had people literally stopping me in the conference, and then even more impressively out on the street at night in between events, asking if they could scan my shirt so that they could claim my POAP. That really opened my eyes to just how much potential there is with this kind of stuff. Being able to say, hey, I did meet MetaMat at this conference, and it's not BS, and you've got the proof to prove it. you know, and so many other interesting applications that started to come into my mind. So, you know, we're still very early on in this, but that's one example of like phygital interaction that's actually really interesting.
And, you know, that's actually a great segue to the next topic, because I did want to bring up the Starbucks, your experience, Craig. And, you know, these POAPs, this is really interesting. You know, this is a way of saying, hey, I was there. Of course, there is a Web 2 alternative. You just take your phone, you take a picture, and like, I was there. So I want to talk about, you know, there are a lot of these new Web 3 aspects coming out, like the Starbucks rewards system through the NFT or blockchain that we talked about on the podcast. I believe it was like 3-4 weeks ago with one of the people who got them involved with Starbucks. But I'm just curious. So when it comes to these types of plays, there already is a Starbucks rewards card out there. My girlfriend uses it every day, and she has no problems with it. She gets points. She gets her free coffee. It works pretty much like an NFT, but it doesn't use the word blockchain. She's not getting scams or hacks or anything sent to her wallet or anything like that. I'm curious, when it comes to these, you know, like a POAP where you can just take a picture instead, why do the Web3 way as opposed to the Web2 way? What is the biggest benefit? And I want to actually direct it right to you, Craig, when it came to you using the Starbucks Web3 program. I want to know if you, first of all, if you use the Web2 program, the rewards card they've been using for years, and what the differences are between them and how your experience was with those two.
Hey, Matt, can I jump in here real quick?
Yeah.
I know you asked Craig, but I actually have to hop here in a few minutes. But you know, your question is really interesting because somebody asked me that as well. And you know, what's interesting about the difference between, let's say you and I meet up on the street, I'm walking in Wynwood, you see me, you're like, oh shit, it's Ralph. Let me grab a selfie, versus scanning my POAP. If I decided next month to have an intimate gathering of people who I've met, and I'm going to share all of my hottest alpha tips, or I'm going to, you know, create a token gated experience. If Craig shows up and he's scanned my POAP and I make this a token gated event, Craig is through the door. If you walk up to the door and you show the bouncers the selfie that you took with me, they're going to be like, yeah, thanks. Good one, Matt. Great that you took a picture with Ralph, but do you have the POAP? Like, if you don't have access, you can't come in, right? And just like you described with your girlfriend and her current card, I am not as lucky as Craig to have been accepted into the Odyssey program yet. So I too use my standard Web 2 card. The difference there is that he's going to have experiences that your girlfriend and I won't be able to have because we don't have access to those digital collectibles. And that's where it really starts getting interesting.
So I'm curious what those experiences actually are, because I personally don't know, you know, what the biggest differences between the Web 2 and the Web 3 card is. So, Craig, you said you actually did use the Web 3 one?
Yeah, and Tony, if you can do a quick screen share for anybody that's in on Twitter Spaces, LinkedIn Spaces, yeah, even while Facebook, you'll see the screen share. So this is right here, as you see, my Odyssey program. It is directly interconnected to Nifty Gateway, which is a centralized NFT marketplace. I think I have that correct. Now, right now, there are 4 journeys available that I'm going on. I am such an incredible degen. I am going on all 4 journeys at once. And I'm just going to click on Coffee Heritage just to kind of give you guys a quick example of how the points are earned. So, experience setup, coffee farm virtual tour, Starbucks trivia, first store scramble, and you can come off of that screen share. So these are the types of things that you're doing. So I'm learning about coffee, like the origins of coffee came from Africa originally. And then you have Latin America. So they start talking about the panhandle. They start really diving in onto the process of how to make the coffee through the coffee tour. And then they go through certain trivia questions. Now, along with that, you better open up your app and you're going to have to spend a little bit of money. But like a true degen, what I did is I would go in and I would start buying these things, trying to complete all my contests at once. So some of these are contest journey. Some of these journeys are time related. So you have to buy one item each week in one of the journeys. Another journey is you have to buy a bag of coffee, a particular type of coffee, and then scan that QR code and then go on to that journey to complete the mission. Once you've completed these journeys, i.e. missions, you then earn these stamps. These stamps safely sit in your Nifty Gateway, which you can also go on a Nifty Gateway. Was my first experience on any marketplace was Nifty Gateway. And how I initially learned about Web3 was through YouTube, not Twitter, crypto Twitter, as we now find is the fundamentals. So my big alpha for people is the experience. Now, I never had the app, Matt, never. I only had the app maybe about a month and a half, 2 months ago. And I only got it because I'm a true Web3 degen and I wanted to experience the Web3 process of customer loyalty that Forum 3 has so wonderfully set out. So big shout out to NFT Bark and also Joe O'Rourke, Bunchu.eth. They're doing an incredible job in launching this program out. So it's interconnected between the app that people use every day. Over 100 million people utilize Starbucks on a monthly basis with 22 million transactions each and every week. 60% of those people use the app. So what excites me about it, another alpha piece, you want to find the Odyssey program, you want to apply, Ralph, you can get in. Come on. If I got to make a call for you, you're a special person. But let me just say, the fact that the staff doesn't know or doesn't even have a clue what Odyssey is, I asked them yesterday behind the counter, hey, do you know about this? None of them do. And I'm going to go to different stores and test this out. But for me, that's really exciting because the bridge to bring people into Web 2 is very easy. If you have the app and you can connect onto a centralized platform, it means that you don't really have to do anything. You could probably sell it in the Nifty Gateway place, and you can just put that money over into your bank account. So the ease of use, the fun that I'm having, and also the learning experience, I find tremendous value. That's my Odyssey overtake right as of it is right now on April 5th, 2023.
So Craig, are you actually able to take those tokens that you earn from doing those adventures and stuff and then like sell them on the marketplace for actual money then?
Just like any NFT, i.e.
Cool.
stamp is which they call them, you can sell them. I believe that these stamps are going to be incredibly, now that's not financial advice, incredibly valuable. So if you have the Starbucks app and you haven't applied to get onto Odyssey, right? Just go back onto CraigO's Crypto Corner on YouTube. Go watch that video with Joe O'Rourke, what they're doing, how they're making the headway. It is so easy to get involved. And it's one of those things that's incredibly cheap. And when people aren't looking and you know that there's a big company that's putting their play here, and you think about the thousands of stores that they have and the coffee locations and all the things that they're doing with the product and the merchandise, and we know that we're going to Web3 and you're not getting involved and you have that app, I've got a question. How much of a degen are you truly? And also, your pocket's pretty safe because it's not a huge investment. Again, I don't count anyone else's money, but I know at this point, this is, I feel, a very strong play. That's my overview for right now.
Matt, would you mind if I pop in real quick on something? There's an interesting thing to be said here, and we've kind of gone back and forth on Web 2, Web 3. Had a talk with the the really great community folks over at Zen Academy on Monday about this idea of like how Web 2 businesses are not Web 3 communities. And there's a really almost a misconception that's still being spread through the space. And that's that like Web 3 is about communities and these projects have communities and the holders are driving everything. It's not so. In the case of what Craig is talking about right now with Odyssey, right? And Craig, I'm sure that you can speak to this further, but Web 2 companies are going to find success in Web 3 because a lot of them have already figured out the model that worked for them back then. It's called creating raving fans, right? That's how communities are created and maintained in Web 2. So the raving fan structure basically turns your customers into your biggest advocates. Starbucks is one of those brands that has an insane amount of advocates, right? People love their Starbucks. They love the taste of burnt coffee beans for some reason. I'm still beside myself. I don't understand it, but that doesn't mean they're not out there.
Yeah.
So these fans, they're going to collect, and they're going to collect absolutely rabidly when they realize that they have the opportunity to. So I happen to agree with you, Craig. I think that you're spot on that there's going to be a marketplace for it coming down the line. Yeah. And there's going to be real money to be made there for the very early ones that are seen as historic in the Starbucks ecosystem.
And by the way, people can, without the journeys, can go on. And I think 3 of these digital assets, i.e. stamps as they call them, I think each one is like $50, $55. The first one that came out in December 16th, which was the holiday stamp, I think that's around $1,100 right now. I don't know that I would tell you to drop money, but you can get a pretty decent part of their collection and start in the Odyssey program. But I think those stamp holders over the next 2 to 5 years are going to be major, major winners so long as we're creating the adoption. But what I'm saying is it is so easy for people who are going on Facebook and know how to do all these cool posts. If you can do that, you can do this. And if you can do this, you're not going to have instant gratification today, tomorrow, next month, maybe 6 months down the road. But 2 to 5 years, I think you're going to be really happy. And I think the ROI on your investment in the Odyssey program and being a holder of those stamps is pretty powerful. So that's one piece of my alpha today.
I was gonna say, but maybe that's the alpha right there. Not necessarily like looking at the stamps, but looking at these new platforms that are coming on, board right now, and that are going to start releasing their debut NFTs. Right? Amazon NFT may do something commemorative right out the gate. So you want to go back to that conversation for a minute? Yeah, maybe the alpha is that. If Amazon NFT drops something straight out the gate, you may want to just secure one for yourself.
Yep.
And hold on to it for a few months.
I would buy
there may be that massive opportunity. There's going to be more companies that do shit like that. But ask yourself, does that brand have a fandom that can really sustain the hype?
Do we know what blockchain, Steve, do we know what blockchain they're going to be going on, Amazon?
So I know they're supporting ETH out the gate, but I believe that there's other things going on behind the scenes that they've been building on Avalanche.
Okay.
I'm curious to see if it ends up being the next big thing or just another VV, when they partner with Marvel and everyone's like, oh my God, buy this Deadpool thing. It's going to be worth $1 million someday. And now it's like the opposite. So, I am curious. That's the thing about Web3 is, we're just investing in general. I've been in the investing game for a while. You never know, even if it looks like the best thing in the world, you never know what could happen with these catalysts. I think it's interesting, though, that not a lot of people in the actual Starbucks, the people who are working there knew about it. I guess that the company itself isn't highly pushing it or training like how it works or even training how Web3 works, which is really interesting to me. You also mentioned that you saw this on YouTube. YouTube, crypto, Twitter, of course, are the two biggest platforms that people are, I think right now are getting their Web3 news from, as well as TikTok for now, depending on what happens with the TikTok ban. But I'm looking at a tweet here from Mario. He's talking about, it's breaking news how Elon Musk, is from yesterday, I believe, added the U.S. state affiliated media. I guess to any of the media companies. He's saying Mario is saying how media is infested with bias and conflicts of interest. 57% of Americans believe that most news organizations are actually more concerned with supporting their ideologies or political positions than actually giving out great information. So I'm curious, what can Web3, because I know Web3 is a bunch of, it's not a bunch of big news outlets who are, controlled by the man or however you want to call it. It's a bunch of people like me and you and Steve who are just here, giving out information that we just believe in. I'm curious because the mainstream media, we're going to be talking about Trump and he's all about the fake news. Mainstream has its own share of fake news and of this, propaganda media type deal. When it comes to Web3, do we think that we also have that problem, either from companies or from people pushing certain projects that they're either invested in, that have the bags in, or maybe, they're bought out from? I'm curious, do you think there is a correlation between Web3 and Web2 as far as the media problem goes, or if Web3 is a solution to corrupt media?
I think to Steve's point before, he goes, companies that have products and services that have a core fan base have not only sold the sizzle, they've given the steak. And I feel right now, even still in Web3, it's a lot of sizzle. It's a lot of Web3 airdrops and this token and that token and this play and that play. Like what Blur's doing, if they were doing that in Web2, it wouldn't work, right? So the things that are working fundamentally in Web3 wouldn't work in Web2. We've got to make Web3, I think we've got to make Web3 appealing to traditional products and services. So that's my quick take on it.
I think there's an interesting problem there. Right? You run into this thing within Web3 that like may be the solution. And it's that a lot of the people here present as like tremendously authentic. There's not like outside of the scammers, like you have a ton of opportunity to connect with people in a really authentic way. It's not muddied down, but there is definitely going to be a better bullshit detector in Web3. And that's because of consensus. Right? You have so much of like this group consensus model, and I don't want to say group think, but a much easier path towards like a consensus around what's fact and what's fiction. Whereas in Web 2, which mind you, Mario comes from, I believe that a lot of the methodology that you see that he uses still to this day, and even a lot of the pundits that you see in Web 2 media, they sensationalize everything. As soon as it comes out, that's the best they can do. And I got to tell you, it's gross. That's just the way I view it. And I think in Web3, you get a lot more authentic conversations like the one we're having here today. So that's why I'm much more pro this side of things.
I want to just stop you right there because I agree with you. But I want to also say this. I put into CHAT GPT right now, is there trust in our mainstream media? And I want to read you the middle part because I thought it was important. According to a 2021 survey by Pew Research Center, 46% of Americans said they had not too much or no trust in the national news organizations to report the news accurately and fairly, while 52% said they had a fair amount or a great deal of trust. However, there were significant differences in the trust levels or political affiliations, with Democrats more likely to trust the national news organizations than Republicans. Well, that last part, I think, sounded true based on conversations that I've had with people, human beings. But I would also throw out the idea that I think that that number is too low. And one other thing that I would like to add about ChatGPT, I find it as a good tool and mechanism to make or help create the work that you've done even better. And I'll share a quick story. Just remind me, MetaMatt, about my wife and the compelling note for NFT NYC job fair. I'll share it. It was a great one. And let me say, thank you, ChatGPT. You helped me out with that because my wife doesn't love this space too much. And I totally understand. Why would she? Right? The last thing that I'll run is that number 46%. My thing is that I feel ChatGPT is a little biased. Just my feeling with all the prompts, and your output is only as good as your input. Those are my thoughts.
That's interesting. I know ChatGPT, even TikTok, these ways that people like us, or I guess TikTok more so, is people like us can get our form of media out, to the public. They're talking about banning TikTok. They're talking about possibly banning ChatGPT. I know they already banned it in Italy, banned it in, I believe it was Russia, China, Iran, and I believe North Korea was the other one. I'm curious what you guys think about this TikTok ban. Steve, are you on TikTok? I know you do the Twitter shows.
Matt, I'm so far away from TikTok. I really do feel comfortable in my lifestyle. That's where I'm at.
That's fair. No, that's fair. But no, TikTok is a great, especially with Web3. It's like a year ago during the bull run, everyone was on TikTok trying to get their message across. It's a great way to get your message to a lot of people that you normally wouldn't. I'm curious what you guys think of the possible TikTok ban, of the possible ChatGPT ban. Are they trying to silence the people, or is this actually, are they concerned about data breaches?
So I talked to Cade. We do on our podcast all the great content we create. We kind of do right now strategically, just kind of put on TikTok. We call it TikTok dumping. We'll just kind of put some of the videos, kind of share some of the content,
Gary V style.
Yeah, I mean, just here it is. You like what we're doing? This is it. But I did talk to Cade from the George Kingdom, a good friend of ours, and he had said, right, well, it's kind of be like the mob, the Web3 mob, a good friend of ours. But he mentioned that the community that he's built around TikTok and those who are monetizing, and I believe he's also possibly had the opportunity, and how he's built his brand, his NFT collection, his merchandise, phenomenal creator in so many ways. He said that it's a concern for him and a lot of the friends because they have created this friend-like circle. Now, I think it's age demographic based. So I'm 45. If I want to kill time really fast, I go on to TikTok, and it is crack in a visual bottle with really funny videos and really concerning videos as well, where I'm just like, wow, I thought we've become unhinged as a society. That being said, I don't have any personal connection to Twitter. If Twitter left TikTok, not Twitter, if TikTok left tomorrow, I really wouldn't care. The only things that I would care about are the people who I'm friends with in this space, where it helps their growth of their community, their business, or in Cade's stance, his podcast.
I personally am on all the platforms: YouTube, TikTok, Twitter. To me personally, I think TikTok has easily been, for me, the easiest way to get my content out there to the mass public. Twitter, I'll get 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 impressions maybe, but TikTok, it's so easy to get millions of views on TikTok as opposed to millions of views on a YouTube, especially, or even on Twitter. I've never got a million views on Twitter. I've done it more than like probably 4 or 5 times on TikTok. That is my only concern, is that getting rid of TikTok will get rid of a lot of people's way to express themselves to the mass public, unless they are a Gary V or someone who's famous or part of a community that they're the leader of a community and all their people are following for XYZ reason. I know you mentioned being 45. Gary V is like the guy who got Cade himself into TikTok, and Gary's 47. So there is something to be said there, I think.
So Matt, if I could, I think one of the big things that is the big reason why I'm not affected by it is not because I don't see the opportunity, right? Gary Vee made it really freaking clear. Like, this is absolutely a platform that you should be using to market. I agree.
Right.
I think if you're in it for the dopamine kick of getting impressions, it's a great platform. But there's going to come another platform along if this does actually happen, right? It's important to make sure you're keeping that in perspective. But what's bigger and more important in all of this, and it's the thing that just gets swept under the damn rug all the time, and it really frustrates me, is the fact that the bill that is currently being put forward and the legislation that is on the Hill right now is not entirely about TikTok. If it was, if the entire bill was only about TikTok, I would absolutely give less than 0 Fs about it.
Right.
Okay. A massive thing that's wrapped up in this is the fact that they're trying to strip away your internet privacy. They've built into this bill an entire pullback on your ability to use a VPN, and it basically said, like, this is going to be criminal. You can go to jail for it. You're going to be fined up to $200,000 for using platforms that are, I believe they actually kept it super vague. They're deemed unacceptable by the state or some shit like that. It's insane. So to me, the fact that they're going to be doing something like that, and it's going to get into the actual legislation itself, under the rug, to me it's really unfortunate. And that's the bigger problem here. And hopefully, if you like your internet privacy and you treasure your privacy, you're reaching out to your Congress people for it, because you need to be bringing that one forward. It's a huge deal, and it has major implications for a lot of people going forward.
Let me just shoot this at you guys. I just wrote five things to tell me, 5 quick bullet points about TikTok and CHAT GPT, right? In way of our show, right? Competition. Some countries have considered a ban on TikTok due to the concerns over competition and the app's potential to undermine local industries. For example, in India, some argue that TikTok has harmed the country's film industry by promoting short-form video content instead of traditional films. Well, that might go to attention, right? Attention deficit.
Yeah, that's just how people are.
Mental health, TikTok. Well, if that's how you feel, we might want to get rid of some other social medias. Again, when I say that I think TikTok, and that's only 2 of the 5 points, I won't go on because I don't want to kill too much time. But the point being is a little bias over here. And I agree with Steve's point when you dive down. This is not about TikTok. This is about control at the highest levels. And it's not about political affiliations. If American citizens step away, do some critical thinking from the mainstream media, both left and right, and you start having conversations with people and you get outside of your echo chamber, you will find that you will expand yourself. And we lead on this podcast with 2 things. One is I could always be wrong. And the second is empathy. If you have those 2 things as a human being, you're going to do okay, especially during difficult times like this. But Steve, that's a point really well made.
You're right. It's definitely not just TikTok. I mean, like you see Reels. There's all these other platforms that have the same thing. And I do believe, it is a bipartisan bill. The people who are trying to get rid of TikTok, trying to, like Craig said, silence a lot of the people. I do believe it's less about just TikTok being bad. And like Steven said, it's not just if it's a TikTok bill, that's one thing. Then they can argue, oh, this is just about TikTok. We think TikTok is bad, doing all this data stuff. But Steven's 100% right. It's not just about TikTok. And I was talking about how TikTok, is a great way to get get reach out there. I personally don't have the same reach I have on TikTok as I do on Twitter. Elon Musk does. So he has a humongous reach on Twitter, just becoming recently the number 1 followed account over Barack Obama. I think Justin Bieber's number 3 now. Elon Musk just recently was in the news, as always, for pumping Dogecoin again. I think it went up around 20% right after he decided to change the Twitter logo to the Dogecoin logo. I personally don't even know what that was all about, like what his thinking was. This is literally, I think it was Friday. Musk's lawyers were in court talking about his, I believe there's a lawsuit. They're trying to throw out a lawsuit for $258 billion, accusing him of running a pyramid scheme to support Dogecoin. That was on Friday. He's trying to get rid of this lawsuit from way back, from a couple of years ago, when Dogecoin pumped 36,000% over 2 years and crashed. There's the Doge father for you. I'm curious what you think about Elon Musk. Is this market manipulation, or it's his company. He's allowed to change the logo as he wants, right? What do you guys think?
Craig, I want to throw it to you, but let me just say, when he did this, it was one of those moves where it's like, everything hurts, but also the "this is fine" meme all at once. Like it just yeah, that's kind of my initial sentiment on it. But let's toss it over to Craig. Craig, what do you think of it?
Maybe that's another piece of alpha. I mean, we see that the symbol is now changed to Doge. We knew the big news. A lot of people made money before the announcement on Saturday, or his statement or sentiment on Saturday Night Live, and then I think it came dwindling down. But there was a nice elevator ride. I think there's also some things that you had talked about, the biggest holder of Dogecoin, which I'll let you talk about, Steve, which I found really fascinating. But I think it's I think he's going to do what he wants to do. I think he is a purveyor of freedom of speech, like him or not. He has mentioned, or has been said that he is on the spectrum. Obviously, he's a brilliant individual. But I also think he is an innovator, and he understands fair markets and capitalism. And capitalism is one of the things that has built our country, good and bad, of our country's history. But when I think about Twitter, I think there are going to be a lot of great corrections to be made. And when I sit here in this opportunity market as we build, there were different times where on certain platforms we were getting a lot of engagement. And then it drops off, it comes back, it wanes. We stay focused on continuing to build. But those are my thoughts, is that Doge might be, depending on price point, might be a good opportunity to play. And again, not financial advice, but when you see a platform that is known for its crypto engagement, its Twitter Spaces where people are talking heavily, the biggest people in the world in Web3 are on Twitter, and you have a Doge symbol, that is sort of like a hint. And let me also say this. I know we're going to talk about a little bit about BRIC, as it stands, and all the teaming up for the Chinese yuan, which is called the Redmi. I think that's the direct currency there, and the unit of is the yuan. But learning a little bit about that over the past couple of days, when I think about a potential bull market, I think it's very possible. And I feel even yesterday sad in a lot of ways for what our country is dealing with currently financially, all the devastation, the overprinting of money, the debt, all of those things. But Doge, Bitcoin could be very, very big winners and could fill a lot of pockets, potentially. Not financial advice. Steve, to you, my friend.
Yeah, what I would say is you're spot on there with like the opportunity down the line in terms of what you start seeing, whether it's here on Twitter or across the pond. There's going to be a big opportunity to hedge against the dollar and hedge against all of this current monetary tumult, if you want to call it that, with Bitcoin, and can't believe I'm saying it, with something like Dogecoin. And it sucks. Like, I mean, you can really zoom out and see it. But the thing that's important that I think everybody needs to keep in perspective, and I think in NFT land, we lose track of this a lot. There is a really, really big lesson that was taught to me a while back, and it's been reset and reset and reset. A lot of people have recycled it, especially when you were in the early coin movements, right around ICOs, IEOs. And it's the tenet of buy the rumor, sell the news, right? In NFTs, it's a little bit more volatile than that. I'm not sure it applies as directly, but with stuff like Dogecoin, you said it yourself, Matt. Back when Elon went on SNL, I remember it vividly. I was still reporting on everything in crypto at that point, like going all the way back to then. And I remember I was literally in an airport about to fly to California to go to Napa with my wife, and there were kids talking about their Dogecoin holdings that they had on Robinhood. And I turned to them and literally had to give them a primer of like, guys, just so you know, as somebody who works in this industry, you need to be aware of the fact that this is going to go down. Because what happens in this exact instance is, buy the rumor, he's going on SNL. What is he going to say? Get all the curiosity, all the interest, all the intrigue, builds up the price, goes on SNL. What happens? That's now news. So all of a sudden you're selling the news and you see this massive sell-off. It was about, I think it was a 30 or 40% sell-off over the course of a week. And it was super painful for a lot of Dogecoin holders. That being said, you bought a coin that had a dog on it. So
no intrinsic value.
So I don't necessarily have a ton of sympathy for you, but I still understand that like lessons are learned. And maybe that was one for you that you learned at home. Buy the rumor, sell the news.
Right. And by the way, I don't want the government token. I'm good. If the fiat doesn't work anymore, I'll stick with pure cryptocurrency other than trying to figure out how we're going to pay the mortgage and the other bills. Just saying.
No, Steve, you made a great point though about even with this recent pump. I personally, I would not be loading the boat on Dogecoin off of this possibly fluff news. Who knows? He might turn it. It's a blue. I mean, it's an iconic logo, Twitter. He might be turning it back to the, it might be a temporary thing for all you know. Like you said with, with the Doge father and, when he was on what was it? Saturday Night Live, that big pump was just, it was a fake pump. It was a fake out basically. And then once the news came out, people realized that level that it was was not even close to where it should be. And then it fell back off again, as it typically does when news happens that, after the news actually comes out, if it can't actually hold the value because the news isn't worth that value, it's going to go back down again. I do believe that Dogecoin isn't quite a viable investment at this exact moment, for the average investor who doesn't know how to trade the ups and downs, how to short on the downs, and all that kind of great stuff. But I do want to talk because I know Web3 also did have that big pump and also that big dump again. Social sentiment right now is at all-time lows. America is also looking like that right now. As far as the global sentiment goes, oil prices surging due to OPEC surprise cuts in oil production was announced this week. I know that I personally believe that was geopolitical posturing. I believe that was pretty much just them saying to Biden, who was trying to do the complete opposite. They're pretty much just giving him the finger, saying we don't really care about what the United States wants anymore. I know Saudi Arabia actually went on record saying, the Crown Prince stated that he is no longer interested in pleasing the U.S. And we know you were just talking about BRIC and all these other countries who are basically forming together and maybe putting an alternative to the U.S. dollar or alternative to the United States being in control of the whole world, which is what America wants to be. And I'm from America. I'm from D.C., Washington, D.C. right now, originally from Connecticut, New York area. So I'm not like someone from outside America saying all this stuff about America. I'm curious what you guys think about all this. Is this us as Americans, it's not a good thing when bad things happen to America, but is America being in control of the world such a good thing after all? I'm curious of what your takes are on all this.
I had that conversation this morning with a friend of mine, and I said, when we were in school, America's the world police. And the question that I would ask with empathy in place, because I don't want to feel like I'm escaping over anyone or any country, is if your room is dirty, why are you going to go clean the rest of the house? Why don't you focus on your room first? Is sort of sometimes a thought that enters my mind. And then someone would say, well, if you're talking about Ukraine and Russia, and I want to touch it very lightly, I would say, I don't want to see anyone die. I want to see people have freedom. I think freedom is something. It's an inalienable right. It's you should be able to live and be as you want. But we have so many issues in our country that one of my buddies said, well, you're a dad, you're a realtor, you're a podcast, you do a lot of things. And I said, yeah, but if I don't focus in on certain things for a period of time, the things that I do, they don't end up coming out well. And it seems to be that is the case with a lot of things that are happening right now. And that's why I say, people, pull yourself from your TV set, pull yourself from your device, and just start having conversations and challenge the thought that you or I might be wrong, or that we might get a different perspective on something and approach it with empathy. But that's just my quick take.
Steve, how about yourself?
This is a really hard one. The situation is bleak internationally right now. And I think that my only answer to it is, God damn it, buy Bitcoin. Like, honestly, that's all I have at this stage of the game, because for Saudi Arabia to come out and make a political posturing like they did about saying that they don't want to depend on America, I hate to break it to you folks. Across the last 30 years, Saudi Arabia has been basically in this geopolitical position of, to your face, shaking your hand, to your back, literally spitting on you. That's the way it's been. So I don't see it as any different. It's just that we're officially no longer shaking hands. If the rest of the world's going to move away from the dollar, and we're simultaneously going to see the dollar move on to Fed coin, which I'm not kidding, that's actually what the name of the system is.
Fed coin.
If you haven't looked it up, you should. No. It's what we're in for, some really interesting times, folks. The Fed coin system is going to be a thing, and it's unfortunate. I'm personally very against the idea of a CBDC, but as we see all of these other countries start to move on to the yuan, it's like, what do you expect? There's going to be a world reserve currency. Whichever one you choose, is going to have pros and cons. If
The
they're
con-
going to move on to the yuan and they
Yeah.
go to a digital yuan because the digital yuan is here, it's now.
Right.
They're going to continue to monitor all of political transactions globally. How does that make you feel? Not great in my position. So I'd rather have Bitcoin and wait until all of this like settles down, because truly, like, CBDCs, in my opinion, are not going to work. They just aren't. So we got to wait until that point gets settled and we are officially away from this entire discussion in a way that is better for the people instead of better for the people at the top.
I know Russia, just recently, a Wall Street journalist, reporter, he was arrested in Russia for espionage charges. This is the first time something like this actually happened since the Cold War, which, not only is the US dollar, we're also just looking at US power in general. People, other countries are seeming to be less and less, quote unquote, afraid of us, or just worrisome of possible repercussions that, typically America would bring upon other countries, not Russia necessarily, because Russia is Russia. But I'm curious, because I do a podcast every Tuesday on these types of topics, and we have one person who comes on who is a very, very avid Trump supporter, and he was talking about how Trump was him and Putin, they were not, at ends. They seemed to be somewhat, I wouldn't say, I'd say friendly. And he was also arguing that everyone hate, a lot of people dislike Trump, and then there's the Trump supporters. He was saying that a lot of the people who like Trump are saying that Trump, being cool or being okay with Putin and not really wanting war is a good thing. I'm wondering what your take on, Trump leaves office, Biden comes in office, we're back at all these. I'm not gonna say bad things are happening because of Biden, but all these types of things, a lot of the Trump supporters are saying is happening because of Biden administration. The Republican and Democrat typical administrations wanting war, making money off of war. Do you think that? And I don't know what your takes on Trump is, but do you think that when it comes to Trump, and I know we're going to be talking about him getting arrested in a second here, do you think that his take on war was a positive or a negative thing when it came to America?
I don't think war is ever positive. I think war is fought for money and power and control, right? And before money is power and control. If you can control the people, then you have power. If you have power, you can access the money. That being said, I want a candidate, and I don't care if it's a Democrat or Republican, but for me, it's not a disrespect to my Republican friends. It's not a disrespect to my Democratic friends. I want a candidate that no one's really excited about, but that's not polarizing. One that goes, yeah, it's my president. That's our president. I would much rather have that than the things that we continue to have. I feel like the presidency is something that you always looked up to or attained to. I don't know that I see it still in that same light, but I'm proud to be here in America, and I want to acknowledge all American citizens. And I want people to unite together, even when you don't agree with someone. It is okay. But war is fought for money, power, and control. And it's just that simple. And Web3, I think like anything can be manipulated, right? We thought about cryptocurrencies, how that couldn't be manipulated. It can. Anything can be. So what I look for is how can Web3 make this part, the political arena, the war arena, more steadfast, because wars are going to happen. Man, we love to kill each other. We love to hurt and pillage and all the other things. I don't, but that's what I see.
I mean, Lockheed Martin's, the government in general, they definitely do benefit, monetarily from weapon production, all that type of stuff, which could, in theory, be contradicting to what the American people necessarily need, want, et cetera. Money always is going to be something that, might keep politicians from doing what's right for the people. Donald Trump, of course, had a lot of money on his own, which is why a lot of his supporters, I personally am not one of them, did like him because he wasn't, quote unquote, bought out. I'm curious what y'all think about this. The most recent Donald Trump news, of course, that he was indicted, went to court yesterday. What's okay?
I'm going to let Steve take that one. And then also we've got Light in the Twitter spaces. We'll bring him on a little bit. We're going to do post show, but we're going to try in like maybe 10 minutes to kind of wrap this part off and go post Twitter spaces. But go ahead, Matt.
Yeah. So just really quickly, Steve, I'm wondering what your take on this whole arrest is. For those who don't know, Originally it was over the Stormy Daniels 130,000 hush money case, but of course that is not actually even illegal to do hush. Hush money is perfectly legal. That's not why he is getting possibly arrested. So I'm curious what y'all think about the arrest. Is he going to be in jail for 1 year, 4 years, like they're saying? Is this going to be like, is this a good thing for America? I know a lot of people who don't like Trump are saying, yay, Trump in jail. Like, let's put him into jail, get him in orange and all that kind of stuff. In reality, wouldn't that kind of make America look pretty weak, seeing that an ex-president is in jail? Like, who's going to trust America when we literally voted for someone to go into jail or go into a presidency who's now is a criminal? I'm curious what y'all think about that.
We've had presidencies where there's been impeachments and there's been like legality thrown into question. And almost in every instance that's happened, it's been thrown out or it's been pardoned. This is one such case that goes to show you that our system is broken. Okay, because it would absolutely have an impact on the way the world further views us. And it's not like the world has a great view of us to begin with. And it's unfortunate. Okay, I'm not saying I'm a fan of his. I'm saying that I'm a fan of a diplomatic solution and solutions that truly are for the betterment of us all, not necessarily the benefit of a select few. So wherever you sit on this one, it doesn't feel great because there's something else that's pushing back. I will tell you, if there is any one benefit I can pull from it, it's that the holders of the Trump card NFTs must be really, really happy right now.
Love it.
Because since he was indicted, they're up 250% to date.
Mm-hmm.
So in case you're curious, folks, play the Trump card NFTs instead of weighing Elon's impact on Doge price if you really want to make money.
Yeah.
Wow. I might challenge you on the Doge one, but I just want to throw this 34 indictments. Yeah, he's no Boy Scout, but this is political monopoly. And as you said, right, we sit here and we make statements. People go, oh, they're making safe fence statements. No, I see people divided all the time about this. Trump trauma or no Trump trauma, Trump supporter. And then I go, neither of them. I'm not interested. I'm not interested any longer. But this is all political theatrics, and people just get the buttered popcorn out. You sit in front of your program so you can get programmed and not have any critical thinking and stay within your echo chamber. And that's those conversations that you'll have. I don't even bother. Like, I had some, what do you think of the Trump NFT? It's a scam. Well, the whole Web3, most of it is potentially a scam. It's a lot of speculative space. But I will say, if this is directly his project or whoever launched it off for him, it's a smart trendsetter move from his end or from his camp's end. Again, I don't know much about that particular project. I don't know that I would necessarily go out and get a Trump digital asset. But Steve, if that's your play, I'm picking Doge, my friend.
I did not say that. Do not put words in my mouth. Do not interpret. Don't hear what I'm not saying, Craig. The one thing that I will say to you is this, and this is a really important thing that you were saying that I'm going to take one step further. Don't be the person at home that allows themselves to be a sheep when you are being fed the story that he was the one corrupt politician. Okay. He was the one that got caught. Sure. But there's a lot of really messed up stuff going on in American politics, and you need not look further than the people at the top. Okay. So definitely just don't accept just what you're seeing.
Yep.
Ask questions and go further.
We got to clap. We got to clap from light. And Steve, that is well said. And I think what happens is sometimes it goes, I don't like Matt, but Steve, I hate you so much more that I don't care that Matt held up a store at gunpoint. That's irrelevant. You're, this person reincarnated. I won't put that individual's name, but we know who Trump is referenced to. And I'll leave it there. But to me, that's what they're like. Yeah, we know you're bad, Matt, but man, Steve, we just want you to crumble and fall to little pieces till you don't exist anymore, and then we want to stomp on those ashes.
But aren't you both just tired though of being faced with this decision of you have to pick the best of two evils?
Yeah. Well, then that's what the media does to you. Is it does to us? Is it pits us left and right, left versus right, as opposed to what's best for us in general. And I'm just curious, just talking about, and this will be the last topic. This is a little bit more of a touchy one. And we'll probably we'll talk about this one more in the Twitter spaces after, so it's not just on the YouTube. But speaking of social media, I know Web3, the biggest thing for Web3 is social media. That's the best way to get your name out there on Web3. I'm curious, speaking about pitting left and right against each other, the Nashville shooting involved a transgender shooter, and that very much pitted the left and right versus each other. One side saying, "Oh, this is a transgender problem," while the other side is saying this is a gun problem. I personally am in the middle. I'm not going to go whether one way or the other. I like my guns and I like transgender people too. I'm not going to say anything about those. I personally think that people are not really looking at the middle area, whereas the problem could possibly be social media. Like social media and the media in general. Every time that this does happen, the person who did the shooting, now everyone knows their first and last name. They're all over. They're being glorified on the media for people who like that kind of stuff, who like to become famous. That's not a great way to do it. I'm not saying anyone should be doing that, but I'm curious if y'all think that social media might have a bigger effect on these types of shootings than just the gun rights, or just in this case, mental health or transgender rights. Because, your social media has, and people talk about the TikTok ban, this and that. There are some negative effects of social media. When I was a kid, in high school, this is I graduated 2010, so a while ago, a little bit ago. There definitely wasn't this many school shootings. I never even heard of it as a kid, but there also wasn't social media. So I'm curious if y'all think that is it guns, is it transgender problem, or do you think that social media might actually have an issue, or I might have a part to do with this issue?
Steve, do you mind if I go first?
I was just about to say, breaking up. I can't hear. Yeah, so Craig, go ahead. I was just gonna play the joke that I can't hear you, and
that was good. That was really good. I was like, is he breaking up and he can't hear me? Yeah. So I put into CHAT GPT. I want to start it here. Transgender school shooting. Just wanted to kind of see what it would come up with. I'm sorry, but I cannot provide a response to that prompt, as it is inappropriate and may be triggering and offensive to some individuals. So here's the world that I think we live in. We live in a safety world where you don't want to offend. You really can't have critical, thought-provoking conversation. Then you listen. And again, I am very much apolitical. I would say libertarian. I just let people be who they are. Just let them be who they are. That's at least what it represents to me. And people, a Democrat will take a negative spin. A Republican say, "Come on over here." That was a stereotype. My thought around it. My thought around it is, it's sad that Biden's press secretary said after this had happened, we support the lives of transgender. That's not up for debate. We support everyone's life. Everyone's life matters. It was a particular subject where they should have addressed just the shooter. But what happens is we like to put a lot of different labels, and it's very good for politicians, depending on the side that they're on. So the right will take a spin and put the clown suit on. The left will go wherever you can't find them. And nobody's together. It's so separated in that regard. And lives were lost. And then you have the leader of our country and the world coming about. And this is not a hit. This is what he said at the press conference 3 hours after, talking to children in the back row at this conference, saying, "I love chocolate chip ice cream." I'm not making fun of him. I think I'm speaking in tonality with a level of empathy. But if I were a parent at that conference who either had a friend or lost my child, and that's what I heard, I don't even know how to respond. That's my thoughts. Steve?
There's a lot that I'm not made up on this, but what I can say is this: school shootings are not an identity issue. And when it comes down to it, we need to respect one another for however it is that we identify. And I'm so tired of people trying to make it about a different narrative. Accept it for what it is. We have a school shooting problem in this country. We need to deal with it. And at the same time, we also need to respect one another for our identities. Okay? Because in a lot of cases, it's not about choice. Your identity isn't necessarily about choice. It's not about taking away something. It's not about giving something. It's who you are. So allow me to, yes, it is it is 100% an authentic answer from me. And I am at the same time trying to dodge a deeply political question that is, in some circles right now, social seppuku. I am going to defer to this. take control of your own identity, control your own views, and take part in a discourse. Don't just sit there and not take part in the conversation, but take part in the conversation in a respectful way and work towards finding a solution. But be who you are. Stay authentic.
And if you were wondering if CHAT GPT was biased, I think we just found out today. Just thoughts on that. And I would like to, MetaMatt, if you're okay with it, I would like to finish up this with a 2-minute rapid fire question. Tony, you've done an amazing job today. And might I say, your mustache looks mighty fine. What I do want to do is throw some rapid fire questions. And MetaMatt, I want to tell you how incredible of a job that you did. Steve, how proud I am always to have you on and engaging in thought-provoking content. And today we went a little off the path of Web3. I think we covered some really important topics. We dropped some really important alpha as a quick summary. But we also got to understand that Chat GPT is a great tool for your business, for your personal life. The compelling letter I'll share on Twitter Spaces if anybody sticks around after. I'm super grateful for this. I want to hit you both with a couple rapid-fire questions. I'm an optimist, not a pessimist. So, Steve, I'm going to throw this at you. What is the best thing that can happen in politics that can make a change, a positive change over the next 4 years?
Voting no to a CBDC.
Love it. Love it. MetaMatt, when you think about Web3, what big innovation in 2023 has you most excited?
In 2023, I'm not gonna lie, I haven't really been huge in the Web3 space as far as like I'm not investing right now in Web3. I'm just trading stocks and crypto. So I guess the Starbucks Odyssey program. To answer your first question, because I'm a little bit more well versed in that when I do content on current events and all that. I think getting rid of the two-party system.
I love it. And you know what? Sign me up because I will vote that all day long. I want to vote on issues that impact everyone. Everyone. Steve, what do you consider the ultimate freedom of being an American citizen? What is that one freedom you enjoy right now?
Heavy one. I think it has to be speech. The biggest thing to me is we're all right now taking part in one of the greatest experiments of all time, and that is creating content together across the country. And I only have one piece of ink on my body, and it says, "Let your voice be heard" in Hebrew. So I am shalom, my friend. It is absolutely the most important thing to have a voice, because those that don't are not living as free of a life as you and I are. So
correct. All right. Last question for you, Steve. VeeFriends or on-chain monkey?
Ooh.
Is that a question?
It really isn't. And if you don't say it right, well.
I was about to say the answer is on-chain monkey through and through and through. As much as I respect Gary Vee, what I will tell you is there's a much bigger debate to be had out there, and I want to throw that question back at you. But I already know your answer, so I'm gonna give you a different one. If you had to choose, what would you choose between Doodles and Moonbirds?
Doodles. Why?
I am sure that Ralph would love the answer to that one.
Why? Because of Ralph.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Ralph. He's a trendsetter in the space. The fact that we get to have on some incredible people who have become close friends of mine, like you, like Ralph, like Meta, I'm very grateful for. And Meta might downplay his Web3 involvement, but he knows his stuff. I want to throw one more question.
Well, really quickly, I would actually take VeeFriends over on-chain monkey or Doodles or Moonbirds personally. Debatable time. I know y'all love your on-chain monkeys, y'all that close-knit community, and
you're not edit that out.
I love Gary Vee. I'd take him over on-chain.
And we will talk about
we need to make sure that the entire audience chimes in for this one in terms of the answer that MetaMatt just gave.
I
want to be Gary Vee. I don't even know who the founders are of on-chain monkey.
and the Doodles collaboration. I love all the things that they're doing. I apologize. On-chain monkey collaboration with Bugatti, which we'll talk about in the Twitter Spaces now. MetaMatt, I am so grateful to have you on here. Steve, I'm grateful, and I'm hoping, Steve, maybe you're going to come back and do co-host next week, because we're going to have NFT Go on, and we're going to dive into that report. So yeah, that's the story. And next week, MetaMatt, you're going to be at NFT NYC.
Yes. Yeah.
Let's close it out, and everybody who's in on Twitter Spaces, I can't wait to hear what you have to say, and let's do it. Thank you so much for watching CraigO's Crypto Corner, the best in Web3, blockchain, NFT, and cryptocurrency technologies. CraigO signing off.